All right, Ben, and we're live. 3, 2, 1.
The memo is out, and we are going to go through it as it comes out more. It's coming out piece by piece, but we'll do what we can. I'm Ben Shapiro. This is the Ben Shapiro Show. One of the dangers of doing a live show is that news breaks right as you are doing the show. So the full memo is not yet out. We've only seen summaries of a memo, which is itself a summary of intelligence documents. So we'll bring you all of the information as it breaks, but we have some interesting news about the memo, and it's not exactly a nothing burger. There was a lot of talk about how it was going to be a giant disappointment. If what Byron York at the Washington Examiner says is true, if what Fox News is reporting is true, if the memo itself is reflective of truth, then the FBI has some answers that it needs to be giving. We'll talk about all of that in just 1 second. First, I want to say thank you to our friends over at Dollar Shave Club. So while you were waiting for this show to start, you grew a beard because we were a little bit late. Well, that means that you need my friends over at Dollar Shave Club to help you out. You've heard me talk about the amazing products at Dollar Shave Club. They don't just have their magical razors. They also have their Dr. Carver's shave butter. And right now, they have everything else, right? Body cleanser, hair gel, and yes, even the fabled butt wipes. They have you covered head to toe. Now's a great time to give Dollar Shave Club a try. You can get your first month of their best razor along with travel-size version of shave butter, body cleanser, and yes, even the magical butt wipes for just $5. After that, replacement cartridges ship for just a few dollars a month. This is the DSC starter set. So get yours right now, $5 exclusively at dollarshaveclub.com/Ben. That's dollarshaveclub.com/Ben. Use that /Ben so that they know that we sent you, and all of their products are fantastic. You will feel cleaner. You will smell better. People will love you more. You'll have a happier life. dollarshaveclub.com/Ben. Use that /Ben again so they know that you sent you, and also so you get that special deal for their travel kit for $5, and then replacement cartridges after that for just a few dollars a month. All right. So we do not have the entire memo. The entire memo is about to be released, but we don't actually have the entire text of the memo. If it comes out during the show, then I will just read the entire memo to you verbatim because it's not that long. It's about 4 pages long. So here is what we know. According to Fox News, the memo suggests that the FBI, when it first gathered a FISA warrant on Carter Page was a Trump foreign policy advisor, and he was supposedly colluding with the Russians, right? This was the supposition of the FBI. This is why they went and got a FISA warrant on an American citizen who was a member of the Trump campaign. The question is, what was that warrant based on? When you submit an application to FISA courts, you have to say, here's why we have probable cause to believe that we need a wiretap on this guy. So what did they use for that? Well, according to the memo, the only thing that they used, and the central component that they used, was the Steele dossier. The Steele dossier was a piece of bad research compiled by a spy named Christopher Steele, who went over to Russia and talked to probably some paid Russian folks. And it was done on behalf of Fusion GPS. Fusion GPS is an Oppo research firm. Originally, Fusion GPS was hired by the Washington Free Beacon to do Oppo research on Trump. They cut out of that project, but then Fusion GPS shopped around that intel, and Hillary Clinton decided that she was going to fund the Oppo research file. So she funded the Fusion GPS dossier, which was based on research from Christopher Steele, who was getting information from the Russians. That information was then funneled to the FBI, and the FBI, based on that unverified dossier, based on a piece of information they were unwilling to verify, went to the FISA courts. Now, why is that a big deal? It's a big deal for a couple of reasons. Number one, the Fox News is quoting from the memo. They're the only people who have access, is Washington Examiner and Fox News at this point. According to Fox News, Christopher Steele, the guy who compiled the memo, the original dossier that the warrant was based on, admitted his feelings against then-candidate Trump in September of 2016 when he said that Steele was, quote, desperate that President Trump not get elected and was passionate about him not being president. But that's not the only thing that's in the memo. According to the Washington Examiner, according to Byron York at the Washington Examiner, the Steele dossier formed an essential part of the initial and all 3 renewal FISA applications against Carter Page. Here is the key point. Andrew McCabe, the deputy FBI director who just resigned, confirmed that no FISA warrant would have been sought from the FISA court without the Steele dossier information. In other words, they used as the centerpiece of getting a warrant on an American citizen who was part of the Trump campaign an Oppo research hit from Hillary Clinton that was non-verified. What's even worse, the political origins of the Steele dossier were known to senior DOJ and FBI officials, but excluded from FISA applications. So by omission, they lied to the court. They went to the FISA court and they said, we have information that all this stuff is happening with regard to Carter Page. But they didn't say, we got this from a Fusion GPS dossier compiled by Hillary Clinton. Because then the court might have said, well, have you checked any of this? Then the court might have thought, well, have you checked into this? This raises some serious questions, by the way, about the operations of FISA courts if they're not actually doing the research and asking the FBI to verify that the information they're being provided is actually true. If they're just putting things like the Russian P tape. Remember, the dossier was filled with a bunch of bad information, like the idea that Trump had gone to Moscow and then hired a hotel. He tried to get the room that Michelle Obama had stayed in, and then hired Russian prostitutes to pee on the bed. Now, you recall this? It was most of this stuff was nonsense, and nearly none of it has been verified. If they were using that unverified information to get a FISA warrant, and the FISA court went along with that without asking any other questions, that has some broader questions about how FISA courts are actually putting out the warrants. Apparently, DOJ official Bruce Orr met with Steele beginning in summer of 2016, and that's when Steele told him that he wanted Trump not to be president. The FBI and Justice Department, this is all according to Washington Examiner by New York, the FBI and Justice Department mounted a months-long effort to keep the information outlined in the memo out of the House Intelligence Committee's hands. Only the threat of contempt charges and other forms of pressure forced the FBI and Justice to give up the material. Once Intelligence Committee leaders and staff compiled some of that information into the memo, the FBI and Justice Department, supported by Capitol Hill Democrats, mounted a ferocious campaign of opposition, saying release of the memo would endanger national security and the rule of law. Now, if what these excerpts show is what's really the main point of the memo, I don't know how that endangers national security or the rule of law. That looks like that was a cover, if that's the case, by the FBI and by Democrats because they didn't want the information getting out there. Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes was determined to make the information available to the public, and President Trump, of course, cleared it just today and sent it over to the House. Now, I'm rapidly updating my Twitter to see if they're actually releasing the full text at this point. They've only released excerpts so far, so we have not actually seen the full thing. We're also going to find out whether there's a Democratic response to the memo, right? We're going to find out what the Democratic response had to say, because they're, of course, saying that all of this is taken out of context. I'd like to hear how this is taken out of context or how this was gotten wrong. So again, Fox News, Washington Examiner are basically accusing the FBI of the same thing and accusing the DOJ of the same thing, and that is essentially colluding with the Hillary Clinton campaign, who in essence were working with a source who's relying on the Russians for information about Donald Trump, and then they were taking that information to open a FISA warrant on Carter Page. So if this is the centerpiece, what does that mean? What does that mean? Well, it could mean one of two things. It could mean that the entire Trump-Russia collusion thing was based on a lie put out by the Hillary Clinton campaign or bad info put out by the Hillary Clinton campaign, and therefore, fruit of the poisonous tree, the entire Russian collusion scandal was a bunch of nonsense from the very beginning, and that this entire investigation has been a sham and a fraud perpetrated at the highest levels of the American government by the Obama administration, the Hillary Clinton campaign, the DOJ, and the FBI. Right? That is observation number one. Or it could be that after the FISA warrant was actually gotten on Carter Page, it turns out there was other information that came up. And that other information lent credibility to the idea that there was some sort of collusion going on. Like, for example, the Donald Trump Jr. meeting at Trump Tower with a Russian lawyer, the letters between Donald Trump Jr., the emails between Donald Trump Jr. and a Russian PR guy saying that the Russian government was trying to help out Donald Trump Jr., it does cast a new light on a lot of this. It makes some of the conspiracy theories about meetings like that a little bit more, I would say, easy to swallow. Right? One of the conspiracy theories is that Fusion GPS, which was working with the Russian lawyers who were meeting with Donald Trump Jr., that Fusion GPS set this up as sort of a sting operation. I always thought that was a bit exaggerated. Maybe it's not exaggerated as much as I thought. So all of this could be an excuse for Donald Trump to start firing people. It is quite possible that Donald Trump just starts firing people, that he ends the Mueller investigation on the back of this, and that the President of the United States says, listen, this whole thing was tainted from the very beginning. Nothing that the investigation comes up with can be true because originally this was based on bad information from Hillary. We don't know the extent to which the DOJ and the FBI were colluding with the Hillary Clinton campaign to get Donald Trump during the campaign. And therefore, I'm going to fire everybody. I think that it's going to take a few more steps to get there. So Paul Ryan was saying this yesterday. He, of course, has seen the memo already. It had been circulated in the House. He says that the memo is filled with some bad stuff, but that doesn't mean that Mueller should be fired.
Were abused, then that needs to come to light so that that doesn't happen again. What this is not is an indictment on our institutions of our justice system. This memo is not an indictment of the FBI, of the Department of Justice. It does not impugn the Mueller investigation or the Deputy Attorney General. What it is the Congress's legitimate function of oversight to make sure that the FISA process is being used correctly, and that if it wasn't being used correctly, that needs to come to light and people need to be held accountable so that we do not have problems again, because this does affect our civil liberties.
Okay, so does Trump now fire everyone? Does Trump now fire everyone? That's the big question that's going to be asked next, and we'll get to that in just a second. First, I want to say thank you to our sponsors over at Legacy Box. So it's coming up on Valentine's Day. Mother's Day and Father's Day are coming up relatively soon, actually. And now it's time for you to start getting gifts for family members. One of the best gifts you can get for a family member is ensuring that all of your photos, videos, old films, all of that is available to watch and access at any time. And that's what Legacy Box is for. Right now, you can look at all of your photos and your videos on your phone. But if you have anything old, you have stuff in the garage that's just been sitting there moldering for years, well, now you can have Legacy Box. Legacy Box, you take all that stuff, you put it in a box, you send it to our folks at legacybox.com, and they take all of those outdated formats, camcorder, VHS tape, Super 8 film, old photos, and they convert them into perfectly preserved digital files. So again, you load it up with all your old tapes, films, pictures. They have stickers they put on each piece so you can trace where it is in the process. And we've used it in the Shapiro household. It is just fantastic. It saves you lots of time. It actually saves you money because you don't have to schlep that stuff to some conversion facility. Over 350,000 families have trusted Legacy Box to preserve countless irreplaceable memories. Make 2018 the year that you preserve those memories. You have it available on thumb drive or DVD, so you can always take a look at it. For a limited time right now, you can save 40% at legacybox.com. 40% at legacybox.com/Ben. Get started right now for $45 right now at legacybox.com/Ben. That's their cheapest package, legacybox.com/Ben. Again, this is just a wonderful, wonderful service. I think that there's not much that you can do that's going to be better for better for your family than this. I think that if you do this service, it's going to make your life better and your family's life better. I think preserving these memories is really crucial. So legacybox.com/Ben for 40% off, and their packages start at just $45. Okay, so President Trump responding to the release of the memo, and here is what he had to say.
The memo was sent to Congress. It was declassified. Congress will do whatever they're going to do. But I think it's a disgrace what's happening in our country. And when you look at that, and you see that and so many other things, what's going on, a lot of people should be ashamed of themselves, and much worse than that. So I sent it over to Congress. They will do what they're going to do. Whatever they do is fine. It was declassified. And let's see what happens. But a lot of people should be ashamed. Thank you very much.
Okay, so the president was also asked about what should happen to Rod Rosenstein, who's the deputy attorney general, who was working in the DOJ at the time that all this happened, and he said that he had no answers on that he was not going to talk about what would happen to Rod Rosenstein. So the real question here is, now does Trump start firing everybody, saying the entire thing was a ruse from the beginning? Now, as I say, now we're down to two possibilities. Right, we're down to two possibilities. One is if the memo is accurate and if it is not exaggerated, if it's not taken out of context, if it's not lying. We haven't seen any of the underlying applications or materials, which Trump could declassify but has not. If, let's say, that was the centerpiece of Trump-Russia collusion, that's all they had, was this FISA warrant on Carter Page and this Russian dossier, that in essence, all this is going to come down to is the dossier, then I think Trump has an excuse to say, listen, we're done here. Okay, there's nothing happening here. There's nothing for me to obstruct. I've been saying all along I'm innocent. And for me to just go to James Comey and say, why won't you say I'm innocent? And James Comey wouldn't do it, and so I fired him. That's not obstruction of justice, because I'm innocent. There's nothing for me to obstruct. I'm not destroying documents. I'm not going out of my way to shut down an investigation. There literally is nothing here, and this memo shows there's nothing here. So that's that's possibility number one. Possibility number two is a little bit different, and that is, as I've said, that there's other information that suggests that the Trump-Russia collusion thing is real. Right? Again, that Donald Trump Jr. meeting at the Trump Tower, or maybe there's information that we haven't heard about yet. So we'll find out in short order, because the Democrats, I'm sure, will respond to this. The FBI will start leaking materials, and we'll find out whether the Devin Nunes memo is just partisan hackery on behalf of the Trump administration in order to shut down the Mueller investigation, or whether it is something else entirely. Okay, but bottom line is, here's what it looks like. Barack Obama's DOJ spied on his political opponent. That's really what it looks like here. Now, Chuck Todd is complaining because so far we've only seen excerpts, and those excerpts have been leaked to friendly media outlets like the Washington Examiner and Fox News. I'm desperately trying to load the memo right now, and it's crashed the House website because our government sucks at everything. So they can't even put up a damn memo so that we can actually read the memo. But when people run around this weekend with their hair on fire, I think there's a reason for people to run around. Again, this opens up a whole can of worms. Why did the FBI and DOJ try to hide this from Congress? Number one, they were subpoenaed in order to get this material. Why did they hide it from Congress? Number two, why were Democrats trying to shut down the memo? What exactly? I assume they'll come out today and talk about which parts of this were out of context. but we haven't heard exactly what was out of context yet. If nothing was out of context, this is really bad. Number 3, what other information, if any, was used to get that FISA warrant on Carter Page? Right, so there are just a bunch of questions that are unanswered here, and the reason that I'm hesitating is because I really don't want to. I really don't want to say anything out of line about what exactly has happened. So here it is. Okay, so finally we are now getting this to load. It's really hard to do this in real time when the House website is down. We're trying to load desperately the actual memo so I can read the text of it to you. Okay, so here it is. Purpose. This memorandum provides members an update on significant facts relating to the committee's ongoing investigation into the Department of Justice and Federal Bureau of Investigation and their use of Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act during the 2016 presidential election cycle. Our findings, which are detailed below, raise concerns with the legitimacy and legality of certain DOJ and FBI interactions with the FISA court and represent a troubling breakdown of legal processes established to protect the American people from abuses related to the FISA process. So now they go right into it. On October 21st, 2016, the DOJ and FBI sought and received a FISA probable cause order authorizing electronic surveillance on Carter Page from the FISA court. Page is a U.S. citizen who served as volunteer advisor to the Trump presidential campaign. Consistent with requirements under FISA, the application first had to be certified by the director or deputy director of the FBI. It then required the approval of the attorney general, deputy attorney general, that would have been Rod Rosenstein, or the Senate-confirmed assistant attorney general for the National Security Division. The FBI and DOJ obtained one initial FISA warrant targeting Carter Page and 3 FISA renewals from the FISC, that's the FISA court. As required by statute, a FISA order on an American citizen must be renewed by the FISA court every 90 days, and each renewal requires a separate finding of probable cause. Then Director James Comey signed 3 FISA applications in question on behalf of the FBI. Deputy Director Andrew McCabe signed 1. Then DAG, that's the Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates, and then Acting Deputy Attorney General Dana Buente, and Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein each signed 1 or more FISA applications on behalf of the DOJ. Due to the sensitive nature of foreign intelligence activity, FISA submissions, including renewals before the FISC, are classified. As such, the public's confidence in the integrity of the FISA process depends on the court's ability to hold the government to the highest standard, particularly as it relates to the surveillance of American citizens. However, the court's rigor in protecting the rights of Americans, reinforced by 90-day renewals of surveillance orders, is necessarily dependent on the government's production to the court of all material and relevant facts. This should include information potentially favorable to the target of the FISA application that is known by the government. In the case of Carter Page, the government had at least 4 independent opportunities before the court to accurately provide an accounting of the relevant facts. However, our findings indicate that, as described below, material and relevant information was omitted. Okay, so what they're saying is that the FBI and the DOJ essentially lied by omission to the FISA court. Okay, number 1. The dossier compiled by Christopher Steele, the Steele dossier, on behalf of the Democratic National Committee and the Hillary Clinton campaign, formed an essential part of the Carter Page FISA application. Steele was a longtime FBI source who was paid over $160,000 by the DNC and Clinton campaign via the law firm Perkins Coie and research firm Fusion GPS to obtain derogatory information on Donald Trump's ties to Russia. Neither the initial application in October 2016 nor any of the renewals disclose or reference the role of the DNC, Clinton campaign, or any party or campaign in funding Steele efforts, even though the political origins of the Steele dossier were then known to senior DOJ and FBI officials. The initial FISA application notes Steele was working for a named U.S. person, but does not name Fusion GPS or Principal Glenn Simpson, who was paid by U.S. law firm representing the DNC, even though that was known by the DOJ at the time. The application does not mention Steele was ultimately working on behalf of and paid for by the DNC and Clinton campaign, or that the FBI had separately authorized payment to Steele for the same information. So that's the big point here, right, is that the dossier was the basis for the FISA warrant, and that was the basis for launching the entire investigation. 2. The Carter Page FISA application also cited extensively a September 23, 2016 Yahoo News article by Michael Isikoff, which focuses on Page's July 2016 trip to Moscow. This article does not corroborate the Steele dossier because it is derived from information leaked by Steele himself to Yahoo News. The Page FISA application incorrectly assesses that Steele did not directly provide information to Yahoo News. Steele has admitted in British court filings he met with Yahoo News and several other outlets in September 2016 at the direction of Fusion GPS. Perkins Coie was aware of Steele's initial media contacts because they hosted at least one meeting in Washington, D.C. in 2016 with Steele and Fusion GPS where this matter was discussed. So they're knocking down the assumption that there was other information used for the Carter Page warrant, right? Because the Carter Page application originally included this Yahoo News article by Michael Isikoff, but that was coming from the same place, namely Christopher Steele. Steele was suspended and then terminated as an FBI source for what the FBI defines as the most serious of violations, an unauthorized disclosure to the media of his relationship with the FBI in an October 30th, 2016 Mother Jones article by David Korn. Steele should have been terminated for his previous undisclosed contacts with Yahoo and other outlets in September before the FISA application before the page application was sent to the court in October, but Steele improperly concealed from and lied to the FBI about those contacts. So they're now suggesting that Steele should be prosecuted for lying to the FBI. Steele's numerous encounters with the media violated the cardinal rule of source handling, maintaining confidentiality, and demonstrated that Steele had become a less than reliable source for the FBI. Before and after Steele was terminated as a source, he maintained contact with the DOJ via then Associate Deputy Attorney General Bruce Orr, a senior DOJ official who worked closely with Deputy Attorneys General Yates and later Rosenstein. Shortly after the election, the FBI began interviewing Orr, documenting his communications with Steele. For example, in September 2016, I'm reading directly from this fabled 4-page memo put out by Devin Nunes, Steele admitted to Orr his feelings against then-candidate Trump when Steele said he was, quote, desperate that Donald Trump not get elected and was passionate about him not being president. Now, there's two ways to read that. One, Steele thought that Trump was actually in bed with the Russians and didn't want him to be president. Or two, he hated Trump and therefore trumped up all this stuff against Trump. This clear evidence of Steele's bias was recorded by Orr at the time and subsequently in official FBI files, but not reflected in any of the page FISA applications. During the same period, Orr's wife, this is Deputy Attorney General, was employed by Fusion GPS to assist in the cultivation of opposition research on Trump. Orr later provided the FBI with all of his wife's Oppo research paid for by the DNC and Clinton campaign via Fusion GPS. The Orr's relationship with Steele and Fusion GPS was inexplicably concealed from the FISA court. So all of this smells terrible. All of this is super, super dirty stuff. And in just a second, we're going to go through the rest of the memo, and then we're going to get Trump's reaction to all of this. It sounds like he's preparing for mass firings. So things are about to heat up in a serious way. We'll get to all of that in just one second. First, I want to say thank you to our sponsors over at Helix Sleep. So if you're losing sleep lately, then you may need to catch up over the weekend, because let's face it, this is going to light up Twitter and Facebook and the media for the rest of the day. You're going to need some sleep over the weekend. That's why you need the best mattress, and that's what Helix Sleep does for you. We have a Helix Sleep mattress in our bedroom. It is spectacular. It is more comfortable than any other mattress I've ever slept on. I can say that honestly, certainly. Helix Sleep offers something that exists nowhere else. A mattress personalized to your unique preferences and sleeping style that will not set you back thousands of dollars. You go to helixsleep.com/Ben, you take a 2 to 3 minute sleep quiz. They'll build you a custom mattress. It's the best thing you've ever slept on. For couples, they'll even personalize each side of the mattress if you want. Everyone from GQ to Cosmopolitan to the show raving about Helix mattress, and it arrives direct to your door in a week. You pop open the box, it inflates right in front of you. You try it for 100 nights, and if you don't love it, they will pick it up and refund you in full. Go to helixsleep.com/Ben right now, and you get $50 toward your custom mattress. That's helixsleep.com/Ben. Again, helixsleep.com/Ben for $50 off your order. Again, helixsleep.com/Ben. Use the /Ben so that they know that we sent you as well. $50 off an already inexpensive mattress that sleeps as well as any mattress on the market. helixsleep.com/Ben. Check it out right now. Okay. Back to the Steele dossier memo, back to this Devin Nunes memo that is blowing up the internet right now. It actually shut down the government website. So here's what it says. So we've already established, according to this memo, a couple of things. One, we have established that the FISA warrant originally taken out on Trump campaign member Carter Page was taken out based on a dossier compiled by Christopher Steele on behalf of the DNC. That information was never revealed to the FISA court. There was apparently no other confirming information that was used. We also know now that Steele had an agenda against Trump and openly admitted such, and that he worked with the Deputy Attorney General, whose wife was busy compiling this information on behalf of the DNC and the Hillary campaign for Fusion GPS. The memo continues. According to the head of the FBI's Counterintelligence Division, Assistant Director Bill Priestap, corroboration of the Steele dossier was in its infancy at the time of the initial page FISA application. After Steele was terminated, a source validation report conducted by an independent unit within FBI assessed Steele's reporting as only minimally corroborated. Yet in early January 2017, Director Comey briefed President-elect Trump on a summary of the Steele dossier, even though it was, according to his June 2017 testimony, salacious and unverified. While the FISA application relied on Steele's past record of credible reporting on other unrelated matters, it ignored or concealed his anti-Trump financial and ideological motivations. Furthermore, Deputy Director McCabe testified before the committee in December 2017 that no surveillance warrant would have been sought from the FISA court without the Steele dossier information. So that's an amazing admission by McCabe that the Steele dossier was the only thing that allowed this investigation to start. And then we conclude the page FISA application also mentions information regarding fellow Trump campaign advisor George Papadopoulos, but there is no evidence of any cooperation or conspiracy between Page and Papadopoulos. The Papadopoulos information triggering the opening of an FBI counterintelligence investigation in late July 2016 by FBI agent Peter Strzok. Strzok was reassigned by the special counsel's office to FBI Human Resources for improper text messages with his mistress, FBI attorney Lisa Page, no known relation to Carter Page, where they both demonstrated a clear bias against Trump and in favor of Clinton, whom Strzok had also investigated. The Strzok-Lisa Page texts also reflect extensive discussions about the investigations, orchestrating leaks to the media, and include a meeting with Deputy Director McCabe to discuss an insurance policy against President Trump's election. Okay, that is the end of the memo. So the bottom line is, if you think that the Nunes memo covers everything, I mean, this is my show. I'm reading this in real time, so here's my real-time take. If you think that the Nunes memo is the completion, is the entirety of all of the information in the Trump-Russia collusion case, then the whole thing is not only an empty vessel, it is a sting operation by the Clinton operation working in cahoots with the FBI and the DOJ, if there is nothing else there, if they can show nothing else there. And all this obstruction stuff, all of this Trump firing Comey, all of this Trump asking Rosenstein whose side he was on, all of this seems to fall by the wayside because, let's face it, if there's nothing there, and Trump is saying there's nothing there, why won't you guys side with me? That's not the same thing as him attempting to obstruct justice. So the memo is, in fact, a bombshell. There is something there that is shocking. And also, by the way, the idea that the memo endangers national security, which is what Democrats have been proclaiming, has been pretty much blown out of the water now that we've seen the memo. There's nothing there, by the way, that we hadn't already supposed. When I was asked about when I talked on the show about what the memo said, I speculated the memo said exactly this, right? If you go back and listen to the shows, I speculated, I hadn't read the memo, that what the memo said was this. This was the center of the memo. And I said, if that's the case, how does this endanger national security? And yet, the Democrats were out there saying this over and over and over, like Jeff Merkley, the senator from Oregon. He came out and he said that if the memo were released, the intel community would stop talking with the House.
It also goes to the heart of the manipulation of very sensitive national secrets, highly classified information that is given to the Intelligence Committee with the understanding it will not be released in a fashion that endangers the United States or in a fashion that manipulates the information for political purposes. And so that understanding goes to the heart of how the committee is able to get sensitive information in the first place, why the government's willing to share it with the committee. So this really threatens to blow up the whole contract between the branches of government over sensitive information.
Okay, it's just ridiculous that this was the suggestion. First of all, the Congress oversees this agency. This is not how government works. Okay, the intelligence community doesn't get to tell Congress to stiff itself. The intelligence community is run by Congress. Right? Congress has oversight power over them. So the idea that the intelligence community will stop sharing is ridiculous. James Comey tweeted this yesterday. What an insufferable character he's turned out to be. Here's what James Comey tweeted yesterday. He said, "We should appreciate the FBI speaking up. I wish more of our leaders would. But take note, American history also shows that in the long run, weasels and liars never hold the field so long as good people stand up. Not a lot of schools or streets named for Joe McCarthy." So this isn't about Joe McCarthy at this point. This is about you oversaw an FBI that was seeking FISA warrants against American citizens based on shoddy intelligence, and you refused to even turn over that information to the FISA court. They couldn't even do this. I mean, this is insane. Speaking of insanity, members of the media, Al Sharpton, Chris Matthews, they're saying that this turns the Constitution on its butt, right? That this kills the Constitution. It kills the Constitution for the President of the United States to declassify material inside the executive branch. Like, they don't understand the Constitution. Here's Chris Matthews over at MSNBC making that case, or MSNBC, get up, come on the show, come in here. Misunderstand the Constitution, make a lot of money. Go.
About a constitutional crisis. It seems to me the Constitution has always been turned on its butt. We've got a Congress, a chairman of a committee on intelligence, which has historically been a bipartisan committee. Usually even-membered members. And they're basically there to work together and to try to find out if our intelligence committees are doing their job. And it's been turned into a tool of a president who's playing defense.
Okay, again, turned into a tool of a president playing defense. That's not what I'm seeing from the memo, so we'll have to see what the response is from Democrats. We'll have to see if they can bring forward more information. Again, the memo doesn't answer everything. It doesn't answer why the Donald Trump Jr. meeting happened, why he was showing willingness to collude with the Russians. It doesn't show why George Papadopoulos was lying to the FBI. Right? It doesn't cover everything, but it raises some pretty serious questions about how the FISA court does its business and whether the FBI and DOJ were lying in order to gain a FISA warrant and whether they have an agenda against Trump. Now, again, does that necessarily kill the Mueller investigation? Probably not. but it does set some pretty rigorous questions in front of particularly Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein, who went forward with these FISA applications if all they were. But remember, Carter Page has not been indicted. Right? When all these indictments were about to come down, my understanding, my thought was that it was going to be Paul Manafort and Mike Flynn and Carter Page. There's been no indictment of Carter Page. So as far as we know, Carter Page was not involved in criminal activity. He's just an idiot who wanders around Russia looking for cash. Right? This doesn't actually mean that Carter Page was a criminal. So that means that you launched this entire investigation on the back of the only guy who hasn't been indicted that we thought would be indicted. The Manafort indictment, by the way, has nothing to do with the Trump campaign. The Manafort indictment has to do with him lying to the FBI. The George Papadopoulos indictment is the only one that has to do with the Trump campaign because he apparently lied to the FBI about meetings that he had in London with a Russian cutout. But it's not clear that Papadopoulos was working on behalf of the Trump administration or the Trump campaign. Trump campaign basically disowned Papadopoulos in the middle of the campaign. So all of this calls into serious question the entire investigation. Does it mean the investigation should be killed? Does it mean that the entire investigation should die? Probably not. But, it's also important to note Papadopoulos was the counterintelligence investigation began before the FISA application on Page, but it was on Papadopoulos. So this is an important point, right? So it's an important point. So again, this is all weird and somewhat confusing, right? They'd been surveilling the members of the Trump campaign. Carter Page had been surveilled by FISA back in 2014. There are a lot of sketch characters working for all of this. But Papadopoulos was under investigation first. So while there are serious questions to be raised about the warrant on Carter Page, I'm trying to set out the timeline in my own head as we go along here. Devin Nunes just confirmed the New York Times narrative that Papadopoulos was actually under investigation first. So one of the things that the investigation is covering here is I want to clarify and I want to backtrack. Again, I'm doing this all in real time. So the original FISA application that was taken out against Carter Page, it's now clear from this timeline that is not what actually launched the investigation, because paragraph 5, let me reread that. Okay, this is the paragraph 5. The Page FISA application also mentions information regarding fellow Trump campaign advisor George Papadopoulos. The Papadopoulos information triggered the opening of an FBI counterintelligence investigation in late 2016 by FBI agent Peter Strzok. What's interesting about that, it's sort of buried in there and a little biased, and I had to read it twice because I'm getting texts from lawyers or friends, is that if the Page FISA application mentioned information regarding Papadopoulos, that means that the investigation was already on regarding Papadopoulos. So it doesn't kill the entire Mueller investigation. What it does do is call into question how the FBI and the DOJ were pursuing that investigation. So that means that there should be serious consequences inside the FBI and the DOJ for the alacrity with which they sought to go after Carter Page, but it doesn't necessarily kill the entire investigation. So that may be the happy medium that we are coming to here. If that is the case, then that means that if Trump starts firing people in the Mueller investigation, that is probably a bad move. So it's not a nothing burger, but it is also not the end of the Mueller investigation. Okay, that may be that may be the best thing I can say. Now, Trump was asked he was asked specifically about Rosenstein, and Trump, being asked about Rosenstein, said that he may fire him. Basically, do we have that clip? Here's what that looked like.
Thank you very much.
Are you not concerned that the FBI doesn't want the memo out?
Thank you very much. You figure that one out.
Okay, so he's saying that maybe he'll fire Rosenstein. Maybe he should fire Rosenstein. Possible. Should he fire Mueller over this? Again, if the investigation commenced before Carter Page, then there's more to the investigation than just Carter Page, as I said before. So, there's some dirty stuff here, but is it everything that is cracked up to be originally on first read? No. If you're a little bit confused, that's okay. I'm going to explain again. I'm going to go back and backtrack. I'm going to explain again in just a second. You're going to have to come over to dailywire.com for all of that. For $9.99 a month, you can get a subscription to dailywire.com, and that means you can also be part of our mailbag. So we are doing our mailbag today, which is a tremendous, unbelievable mailbag. You will love it. It is spectacular. And you will also get the rest of the Michael Knowles Show live, the rest of the Andrew Klavan Show live. Plus, if you get the annual subscription, then you get the very finest in beverage vessels, Leftist Tears hot or cold tumbler. And I'm going to take a swig from that right now because, my goodness, what a morning. So check all of that out. If you just want to listen later, SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube, subscribe there. Please leave us a review. We always appreciate it. We are the largest, fastest growing conservative podcast in the nation.